So another event that's important, at least in my life, was the fact that I immigrated to the United States in 1995, and I came to New York City, straight up to New York City, on a diversity visa. So I want to read a couple of poems about that experience. This poem is called Diversity Visa. When you carried our lives inside, how could the envelope be so small? We laughed and joked that we'd sleep under the Brooklyn Bridge. We'd eat a donut a day. We wondered if the New York streets would be dirty and crowded and paved with dreams. Would there be dogs with bagels up their tails? Would there be beautiful people like in the movies? Or would our life be a Seinfeld episode about nothing? Better poor in America than in Romania, we said. Would you do it again, you ask? With you, I answer, anytime. And since Father's Day is coming up, I have to read this poem. I read it many times. This is one of my favorite poems to read. My father, the great stone statue. My poems are my mistakes, let me make them. My friends are my mistakes, let me have them. So what if they're the sons of workers? So what if they're not refined and well-read? You can't keep me in a tight-lidded jar. Don't you see, I'm a 5-alarm fire, not a firefly. And I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor so you can show off and climb the social ladder. And if you need a doctor in the family, I'll marry one. I can't wait to marry just to spite you, the son of a peasant just like you. You, the great stone leader on your pedestal, with your raised hand pointing to the brilliant future only you could see. I lived in fear of you, in a dictatorship the size of our apartment. I was afraid but fought you anyway. At 16, I waged my own revolution, the one of all the girls in the world. I chanted, screamed, and waved my flags in the kitchen. You were my huge Lenin statue I tied with ropes, pulled down, and dragged away. Don't get me wrong. I always wanted to be like you, to be you. I wanted to have your poise, your walk, your sure foot. At 26, I needed to prove that I've grown. I broke the news over the steaming food. I got the visa today. A cloud entered the room and sat at the table, and you, who always wanted to emigrate, you couldn't ask me to stay. You crumbled before my eyes. You, the strong one, distant on your pedestal, broke down to pieces, to dust. A simple man about to lose his child. You cry too easily, I said. I took your tears with me and carried them 5,000 miles. I own my suitcase and my mistakes. My heart was a flapping flag. I rose in the new land to claim it and make you proud. So that was my Father's Day poem. So I came straight to New York City, and I always had a love-hate relationship with the city. It's very inspiring. One can see all sorts of surreal things. So I want to read this newer poem about the city, which is called The Greatest Musical of All Time. This city is not made of bricks, but of bodies stacked together, flesh turned to cement and asphalt skin. Even the glass is not glass, but fingernails and retinas stretched to cover the facades. And I can see bones sticking out from the scaffolding and the sides of the buildings, where the ribs are steel beams holding the structures together. And everyone's hair runs underground in wires and cables. The city embraces us with its long avenues so we can't escape. It makes sure we'll never leave, and we love it. We love you to death, we whisper in its furry rat ear. Do you hear that? It's the tune the delivery man hums, waiting for the light to change, heard by the halal vendor who whistles it frying rice, and the rice sizzles and whistles it too. And the song is picked up by the woman who gives out cupcake samples with little rounded mouths like choir boys, and the waiter who harmonizes, walking with 2 glasses on a tray to the table of the 2 old ladies as they croon chin chin in the taxi cab on the way to a show, and the taxi driver hums it too, honking and cursing, "Move, move, motherfucker," and the cast belt it out in all the Broadway shows as Times Square screeches and turns its rotting stage where everyone sings and dances. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York City. Then the lights turn on cue at twilight when everyone rushes out and the cleaning crew walks in with jazz hands, brooms and rakes and the marching band. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the greatest musical of all time. So that was an ode of sorts, right? I want to read a poem about one important event that happened when I was in New York City. And it's from my newest book, Twoxism, which is a book of ekphrastic poems and photography. And this poem is about 9/11. And it's dedicated to the 200 jumpers from the Twin Towers who jumped when the Twin Towers was struck by the planes. It's called Morning Coffee. On one side, the roar of the flames, the unbearable hot, deathly mouth. On the other side, fresh air. You couldn't breathe, and there was the escape, bright sun, light wind, and silence. An angel without wings, you chose to step into the void. It must have felt like flying, a thing of beauty, the body's delicate 10 seconds ballet. Feet apart, knees bent, straight arms at high speed. And you evaporated into the breeze. Years later, nobody claims your name, the one scribbled by the barista on the coffee cup you didn't drink. And so I write about many things. I write about the city, about personal experiences. Here's a poem about a personal experience that's memorable. Again, inspired by some facts, some personal. My discussion with a friend. It's called The Other Woman. She blooms in his mind a poisonous rose. She wants to carry his babies, and I can't stop her, my friend said. For hours we walked around Soho talking about our men, how not to lose them. Desperate times call for great lingerie. We bought thongs, black lace with velvet roses. At home I shaved my worries and dimmed the lights, pretending to be the other woman. And here's a poem. I want to say a big shout out to some colleagues from the place where I worked before. And this is a poem about Franny Rutherford, who you remember well. And it's inspired by her story of when her mother died. She went to Pennsylvania to the funeral, and then when she came back, she had the most frightening experience of her life when she was in the car and all these trucks surrounded the car going on the highway at high speed. So I wrote this poem inspired by her story. After Nina's funeral, Franny drives home. How much death can one handle in one day? It's a 6-hour drive through Pennsylvania. I don't want your death to stick to me like fog, so I drive fast. But it still catches up soon, Nina. Tonight the Grim Reaper drives an 18-wheeler. His sight gleams, his tank top glows. Monstrous and dark, huge trucks surround my car. In seconds I'm in a hell of wheels and blasting horns. My face is half lit, half eaten by darkness. You taught me to be fearless, Nina. I look the Reaper in the eyes in the rearview mirror. there are no eyes. I gather my strength and speak with your voice. Back off, motherfucker. Back off.